It's a very subtle signal. All right, we're
I'll do
live,
this.
guys. We're live. Thanks, Ed.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys. Welcome.
We're live.
Yeah, we're live. Uh, been plagued with Wi-Fi again. My nephew thought he fixed it on my truck, but what he did was disabled it, and it's password protected. So that's what I've been doing for the last 30 minutes or so. But Michael is late. He had a family thing, and he'll be here when he gets here. So help me watch for him, guys. I'm gonna start saying hi to everybody. Welcome, panel. Hey, Ed. Hey, Skipper, and hey, Susie. Great to have y'all here. Oh, and also Rob told me that they're doing that pre-planning meeting for the swap at his store, and he may be a little late because it's running. He did message me, so watch for Rob. All
Oh,
right.
gosh. I hope I wasn't supposed to be there.
Look, you're fired.
It's for anybody that wants to help set it up and all that. And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I can barely set myself up there. I better not.
Yeah.
All right. My fish tanks, Dee Dee, Skull, Robert, Maria Z, Paul McCarty, 3GS, Mike's Aquatics and Thing, Jen, Skull, Local Austin, Elizabeth, Florida Fish Rescue, The Zen Ginger, BJ Palmer, also known as Billie Jean, My Fish Tanks again. I'll repeat, Shauna, 503 Aquatics, Stephen Truth Seeker. Sorry about that. I think that's Alec Rumanoff. Hey, Alec, welcome. Mods are posting the links. Thank you, guys. And also, mods, while I'm looking for somebody new to shout out, that may be everybody, I want to post April's website for her betas link if we can get that.
Amber?
She's going
Amber.
Amber, you got it, Ed?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm sorry. I can just show it off.
I did,
Well,
but I don't
There you
have
go.
It's just
Oh, I think it's Beta Lady.
no.
Got a queen.
BetaQueen.com, I think.
Well, I think
Don't
all
forget
ladies
your
are
popcorn,
queens.
There you go.
folks.
That's a win-win.
And guys that like to dress up like them.
They're queens.
I don't know about liking
I
that.
just got that. I'm slow, Ed.
And guys that like to dress up like them.
Someone tell Bob to light a candle. If only, Jimmy. I'm in my truck again. There's Griffin.
Sorry.
Hey, Griff.
Who's that?
Zen
That was
Ginger
me.
got it there. Yeah, it's betaqueen1word.com. And I've already been on there, as several of us have, and got some not really, really nice betas. So, guys, if you're interested, don't delay because she sold out several of them already.
And we're talking.
Why is
like,
Bob always in the
water.
dark? I'm always in the dark, Diego, because I'm in my truck, because I'm plagued with a hell Wi-Fi system, and tomorrow it's getting replaced or repaired or something to it at noon, at high noon. So for me to even be going live, I have to sit out here. Actually, I'm on the house Wi-Fi, and is it doing okay, or am I garbled, or?
No, you're actually pretty good.
Okay, so it's probably one more person, then it'll go crazy, so.
We just
Hey,
can't see you.
Diego. Yeah. Well, that's a plus. I'm not charging extra for that, so
Thank God.
that's a plus. Maria
Mike's
said, "All
Aquatic
good."
and Things says you look better in the dark.
Oh, here's somebody. This may be Michael. Let's see.
Normally the girls tell him that.
What's up,
Hey,
Mike?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hi there.
Hey, Ed.
Having some Wi-Fi issues, so if things get garbled, one or two of the panel members will drop down to the chat. Getting the Wi-Fi fixed tomorrow, but I'm actually in my truck. That's why it's dark. Using the Wi-Fi out here, which is a win-win for everybody. You can't see me, so.
Oh, all right.
So what
cool.
are you up to, Michael?
My family was actually in town. It was we had our son's birthday party this week. He turns 7 on Wednesday.
Cool.
So we did that this week, and I was hoping to get here a little bit sooner, but got caught up with a few other things. But we're here now, and it's nice to see everybody. Tom, Bob, Ed, Susie, everybody in the chat. I haven't even looked to see who all is here, but I hope everybody's having a good night. It's been a while. I know I haven't seen most of you guys in probably well over a month now.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
you been?
it's been a while.
Summer's just kind of my busy time. I like to go out and do stuff. So between work and hanging out with the family and doing things around the house, just kind of been a little bit busy. Worked down in the fish room a little bit earlier, trying to make some tanks fit in stands that I mismeasured. So we're working on that and we're getting it done. And it's
Awesome.
happening. Got the 125. I actually took a little video of earlier that I'll post up hopefully soon. It's not in bad shape. It's just, it's been the way it is for about a year now, and plants are still growing great in it. But it's about time for a change of scenery, I think. So we're gonna mix things up soon. I had about 65 species of plants in it for a while, and I think we downsized with the last trim. I went from 65. I'm down to maybe 45 or 50. And I think I want to cut it down to about 35 or 40. And actually, I'm going to rescape the whole thing. So I'm going to tear everything out, adjust the hardscape a little bit, and cut it down to about 35 to 40 plants instead of so much of it's more or less a farm tank that looks good right now. But actually make, a visually pleasing scape for change.
Good. Good. Mike said you did just run in because your hat was still swinging on the head.
Yeah. So, how have you been, Bob? I know I've kind of tried to catch a stream here and there. I haven't really had much time to chat with folks, but I jumped into Pam's stream for just a minute the other night, and I think I said hi to a couple people. And I've been in and out of yours. I like to at least say hi to you guys when I poke my head in. Doesn't always happen that way, but I try.
Right. I've been doing great, and this panel was an idea that actually Robert, who's in the stream, also in the chat out there, he's usually on the panel, but he's got Wi-Fi issues too. We came up with this idea, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, and I wanted to do something a little different, just a different spin on things, and it's evolving and growing. And Susie Q's our latest addition, and she's awesome. So
Awesome.
it's just a good group of people. So I really look forward to it. So
Good
thank
deal. Patrick Hardy, thanks, bud. $1.99,
Patrick.
throwing some money at you.
Yeah, he
And
has
I know
been
he's not throwing
money.
it at my ugly face.
Well, I'm in the dark, so you know it's not me, huh? Well, I didn't tell these guys, give them a topic because you and I kind of just left it open. I said it's, kind of the guest pleasure. We talked about a couple things, so I don't even really know what Michael wanted to talk about. So I'll be surprised too.
Well, Bob was nice enough to ask me to jump up on the panel and talk a little bit about.
Do you mind talking a little about? Sorry. Do you mind talking a little about yourself? I find that people give a much more accurate depiction of themselves if they kind of introduce themselves.
Yeah, and so Zen Ginger actually asked, "Is this the same me who gave away some LT Gray antlers on Dan's Fish a few months back?" And yes, that's me representing Dan's Fish, breeding his pleasure. That was me, and I still have the LT Grays. I've got a small colony of them now, and I have some Silverado antlers. And we're starting to, if you've watched any of my videos lately, which there haven't been many, maybe once a month, you'll see that we're starting to build the new fish room back up and starting to fill tanks up slowly, very slowly. But yeah, so anyway, Bob asked me to introduce myself. So I'm Mike. I run the All Things Fish channel. I've been involved in the aquarium community for my first tank was a 29-gallon tank that I took over from my dad in about 2005. And I kind of took that over and got into the hobby initially in planted tanks, got into, for the long-term guys that have been into shrimp for a while. Remember when cherry shrimp were kind of the first thing and back then cherry shrimp were it was clear with a little hint of red to it. So that was started jumping into shrimp a little bit, and then got into crystal reds and crystal blacks when they first hit the market. And then eventually I got into crystal reds a little bit. Never got into anything higher than that at the time, but Black King Kongs came out, and at the time Black King Kongs were like 400 a piece. So that's how long
Wow.
ago I initially got into the hobby. But planted things have always kind of been my thing. I've dabbled in salt a little bit of brackish here and there. If you've seen my channel or if you've seen me post on Facebook, I had a paludarium with some cherry shrimps, some endlers, and then some
Yep.
starry night reed frogs up in the upper half of the section, the terrestrial area. So that's my aquatic background. A little bit about me. I'm in the military, so sometimes you guys see me, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I'm not home. Fortunately, I'm home now. Married. My wife and I have been married. It was 9 years on the 29th. So we've been married for a while, and my little boy is turning 7 next week. So it's been a busy week. Bob happened to catch me on a night where I had some free time, so I said, "Sure, I'll come up and we'll chat for a little bit and hang out with you guys and probably talk about plants." That's kind of my thing. Obviously, I'd like my knowledge to expand beyond plants. I know a little bit about salt, a little bit about shrimp, breeding fish, obviously. But thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Do I miss Guam? Guam's not too bad. There's not a whole lot to do there, but it was a nice vacation. I was there during the winter, so I live in Iowa, where it gets cold enough to make your face hurt. And so Guam was a nice break. Unfortunately, it left my wife sitting at home shoveling snow while I was sitting on the beach. So thankfully, she was at home fighting the battle at home between snow and getting the kid to school and making him behave.
She must be in the background.
She's out in the living room. I'm out in the kind of the kitchen area right now. She's out in the living room.
Sorry, I haven't seen you in a while, so I had to bust you a little bit.
Oh, Zen, you
Yeah.
won the El Tigres. Cool.
Zen, if you like some more, I know that was pretty unfortunate when everything went through down there. I am surprised that you lost them due to the cold, because a lot of those endlers you can get down into. I've kept them into the low 60s. They're usually okay down in low 50s. As long as it's a slow, gradual change. I know you guys had some awful weather. So if you're interested in some Zen, I think you still have my email. If not, Mike .allthingsfish@gmail.com. Hit me up and I'll help you out. You don't have to just cover like shipping or something, and we'll figure it out. You went through enough of a hassle, and I'll help you out on those. So, Big D Smoke, Fishymon, Grumpy Mike, Elizabeth, Florida Fish Rescue. What's up, guys? There's a lot of people in here. I have a very small channel over at All Things Fish. There's a lot of people in here that I don't recognize at all. A few names that I recognize from jumping in other streams, but I think there's a few folks that have never been over to all Things Fish chats. Multiple aquariums, thank you. I appreciate it. Much appreciated.
So how many tanks you setting up in the basement?
How many do I have, or how many am I going to set up?
Yeah, how many do you want to do
Okay.
it?
So I currently own 56. Nope, I just picked up 3 more. 59 aquariums. Actually 4 more. 60. So, however, I'll probably end up with the big display upstairs, so the 125 that you guys have all seen over and over again. I'll probably end up with. I'll keep one of the 2 biocubes, and that might be something salty, maybe like a mantis shrimp or something. And then downstairs, I'll end up with the 180, 275s, 340s, a rack of 8 about 16-gallon tanks, and then probably I've got a handful of 15s and some. I'll either set up 10s or 20 highs, and then a couple 2.5s just to raise, fry, and to hatch them out in and feed them in. So all in all, I'll probably end up between the 30, 35 number is was kind of what I'm shooting for. Anything more, it's just my hobby. It's not a business. I don't intend to make it a business, and I don't want it to become work. It can be work, especially if I'm out of town, which happens often depending on the time of year and just how busy things are in the global environment. I can be out of town a lot, and that means that the wife has to take care of things while I'm gone. So I appreciate her taking care of things. I try to make it as little work for her as possible. If she can get down there once a week and feed them and just make sure that nothing's an absolute disaster, that is certainly sufficient. A lot of guys run like auto water change, like drip systems. That's not something that I'm personally interested in. I like to get my hands in the tank and actually see things. Sure, if you have it automated, it's great. there's always water. You at least have clean water, right? But I don't want it to be something that I just set up and ignore. I like to get in and see the tanks and actually, get my hands wet. So I think a lot of, not that you can't be successful with an automated setup, but I like to get in and see every tank and see what's going on and enjoy everything and get in and see the little nuances. So just my 2 cents. I definitely don't want to get too big, because then it just turns into a headache, and this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun, not a lot of work. Of course, you can make it as much work as you decide to.
Right. Sorry about the Wi-Fi issues. I don't know what y'all are seeing on that end.
Nope, that's just fine. 503 throwing up 299. Thank you.
Thanks, Shauna.
I'm having a really hard time focusing on fish. After you said that you just got done with your son's birthday party, what type of cake did you guys have?
I knew it was coming.
So I figured I would either get your attention with the cake part, or I may run to Taco Bell and grab dinner after the stream.
Oh gosh.
Okay, Taco Bell.
But cake, we just did grab some cupcakes quick. Nothing crazy. Don't get it too excited. Threw some cupcakes together quick and called it a day. It was pretty low key. Nothing too crazy.
Well, cupcakes can be great because then you can have more than one flavor and not feel bad about it.
And you don't feel guilty. Like, if you say, well, I ate a whole cake, like that's a lot. If you're like, oh, I had 3 cupcakes, they're tiny. Like, that's not such a big deal, right?
Right.
Nobody cares if you eat 3 cupcakes, but if you eat a whole cake, like, oh, suddenly it's a problem and people care.
That's why I never tell.
This is how long I've been gone. I know that some of the channels in the family have been starting to get be able to have memberships. Is that something you've had for a while, Bob, and I've just been oblivious to the fact, or is that something new?
You can get it when you turn 1K, and I didn't do it till like I had 15 or 1600 because I have ambivalent feelings about it, and I still do. But yeah, I've had it for a little while now.
Yeah. Well, good. I mean, I hope it works out for you. Obviously, there's a million different directions that you can take a channel depending on your goals and what you're interested in. So, whatever your goals are, I hope it works out for you. Sunfish Assassin a minute ago, they said, I'm doing my first live interview on a fishing channel in 25 minutes. Any advice? Just be casual. Yeah, have a plan. I definitely, if you're doing the interview, you need to drive the interview, right? So have not necessarily a script, but a set of questions and topics that you want to touch on, or you want them to talk. But even if it's something that you have no clue what it is, at least have questions set, because nobody wants to go into an interview and you don't really have questions ready. You're not prepared. So I mean, it leads to kind of a rough, especially if you're like, well, I'm going to interview this guy for an hour. Well, if you don't have an hour's worth of questions and topics to drive the interview and drive the conversation, then there's going to be a lot of awkward silence. And you're probably going to go off topic a lot and lose people's attention.
Right, Jimmy?
Maybe I don't want to see Bob in a lighted room.
That's what the members are. You not seeing me? You're not a member. You should be able to have to see me. It's the opposite.
Uh, so so real quick before we get into nerdy plant stuff, while we're just being casual here, I saw that somebody on the panel was about an hour away from me last week, and I was kind of disappointed that I didn't have a heads up because I could have met up with him. Excuse me. And
that must have been Ed. That wasn't me.
so he went to a pretty cool local shop down in Omaha called Fish Freaks, and hopefully he checked out some of the other ones while he was down there.
I did. I went to two.
Oh, weird.
Yes.
Now he speaks up.
Well, where are you located?
So I'm in
I
Sioux
thought you were
City.
located in Denver.
Nope, I'm in Iowa. So Sioux City is about an hour north of Omaha.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're where Matt F is. Liquid Zoo.
Liquid Zoo's up here.
Yep.
Sioux City.
Yep. I've been to Sioux City many times. Well, all my family is from Iowa originally. But this was more of kind of an emergency trip.
An emergency trip to an LFS halfway across the country.
Well, my uncle is in the VA, and so the rest of the family was all there. So we all took him to lunch, and I was like, you know what? There's a really good fish store nearby. And I wanted to videotape it, but they kept asking me questions and stuff, so I couldn't.
Yeah. Did you, was Mike down there? Was he in? Mike Bovinet? He's the owner down there.
I didn't ask their names. There was
Okay.
a guy and a girl, and they were both very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept asking us, like, I think they were like, why is this guy answering all their questions?
Right.
I brought like 9 people in the middle of the day. They're like, cha-ching. And then we just all walk out.
Yeah. So when I lived in Sioux Falls, we'd kind of carpool down there and take a bunch of people down there and hop across the different local shops. So we'd go to, Mike's shop at Fish Freaks. We'd go down to Jim's shop over at Nebraska Aquatic Supply. Rivers and Reefs used to be a local shop. Now I think they do a lot more pond stuff. So I don't know if they sell stuff out of the storefront. Or no, not. I'm sorry. Rivers and Reefs is still open. There's another one I can't think of now that switched to ponds. And then Fantastic Fish is down in Bellevue. So lots of options down there. It's pretty cool. There's if you're in the area, the Nebraska Aquatic Society usually does swap meets in Omaha there. And if you go over to Des Moines, there's a couple Iowa groups that do swap meets a couple times a year, especially Quad Cities. If you know Tom from TM Aquatics, he goes down to the Quad City swap meets pretty often. You can meet a ton of people over there.
I almost went to those before I even knew about YouTube, way back when I lived in St. Louis.
Really?
Just north of me then. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah,
I know you're really, really deflated too, because you kept telling us on all the streams that you were going to maybe get to meet up with somebody famous over there, and you could have met up with Mike too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not famous by any means.
I was supposed to do my Thursday night show at Fantastic Freaks' house because he lives in Council Bluffs.
Okay.
And my family's all lives in Council Bluffs.
Okay.
But we got into town and we went to there's a place there called Pizza King, which is like the best steaks I love.
Oh, really?
I know it sounds weird. It's called Pizza King, but it's wonderful. So we all went there, and we just weren't able to get out of there in time for me to be able to set it up. And so I just got back to the hotel room and started. So I missed seeing Austin also, which was a bummer.
Yeah, actually, I met Austin at the spring. If you watch my channel, I did a short video on the Nebraska Aquatic Society spring swap meet. So I actually met Austin there and talked to him for a little bit.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
A while back, somebody asked, I think it was Bobby, asked, he said, what's the most challenging plant you have to grow or keep alive? The most challenging one I currently have, it's a tough question because, I mean, generally speaking, for the most part, all plants. I mean, you give them, light nutrients and CO2, and they're happy. You know, uh, I would say where people generally struggle, where they find a plant is harder than something else would be if it requires, some of them require like an insane amount of light. Like if you have, oh, like Hygrophila sp chai, which is the super small one. It's got real narrow, bright pink leaves. It's kind of a lab created plant. It's tough because it requires pretty intense light and quite a bit of CO2. I would say some of the more difficult species to keep that I've either tried to keep or have kept, the Syngonanthus species and the Toninas are a little bit tougher just because they really like soft water. So if I had to say to name a couple difficult plants, I'd say the Toninas or the Singos, and they're both super cool stems, but sometimes they can be a little challenging, a little tricky.
Where do you? Oh, sorry. Well, I'm going to ask anyway, and then I'll just say it again. Where do the difficult plants live in the wild? Because those are the ones that are really annoying, and how do they have like a perfect spot where they survive?
So honestly, and maybe this makes me a bad Aquarius, but I don't. When it comes to plants, at least, I don't pay a ton of attention to where they generally come from, especially anymore nowadays. With plants, there's so many aquarium strains, or honestly, like if you look at like Tropica, or some of the plants that are doing a lot of these, like the lab created stuff. Like if you look at Hygrophila siamensis 53B, it's generally speaking a lab created plant. So where does that come from? Well, it comes from a lab, right? So a lot of it I don't really pay attention. It's not like fish. Like I care about where fish come from, right? Like I care.
Maria,
Like
we may go over if you.
Is Bob talking?
Okay. Yeah, Bob was saying that we may go over just a few minutes here, and I'll try to make sure that I don't ramble on too much. But like fish, especially, like we care about fish, particularly if you're a Kili guy, you care about collection points, when it was collected, where it was collected, which trip, or if you're into like the African cichlids, a lot of the like either wild caught fish or a little more highly valued fish have a collection point associated with them, and that collection point may mean that it has a various color variation, etc. Right? So there may be you may have two fish of the same species from different collection points that display different colors. Well, so in plants we kind of see the same thing. So if you look at Ludwigia verticillata, there's several variations. We now have the most recent variation that I've seen in the hobby is the meta strain. However, you also have like Pantanal and Cuba, and if you look at them, the leaf structure and everything is identical, but based on the collection or that variant, they display different colors. So Cuba's more prone to show like your yellows, your oranges. Pantanal's more prone to show your reds and even your pinks with really highlight. But as far as Ed asked where a lot of the harder ones come from, it's kind of a wide variety. So like your Bucephalandras, a lot of them come from like Malaysia. Your Crips come from about the same area. You get more into your stem plants, you're looking like South America type stuff, I think. And a lot of these, keep in mind that one of the reasons that we struggle with a lot of these plants, right, and we forget about this, and it comes into play when we talk about CO2, is that the majority of the plants that we keep in the trade are not obligate aquatics, right? So they don't have to be found underwater. Like the exception is like your vals. You're not going to find a val that's ever grown immersed because it just doesn't do that, right? So the majority of the plants that we keep are generally found, for the most part, in the wild, grown immersed, where they may be in a shallow puddle of water or some mud, but for the most part, the plant is up out of the water for maybe 90% of the year, and until you hit the wet season or the rainy season, where that that plant is actually fully submerged as water levels rise, etc., due to rains or glacial, or I'm sorry, um, snow melt off.
Well, that's a great explanation.
So when we think about that, you think that a lot of these plants that we keep in the wild, they're found immersed, right? So then they generally kind of have a little more waxy leaves so that they can retain some of their water. They have access to atmospheric CO2. So atmospheric CO2 levels are approximately, roughly 400 parts per million, which is pretty reasonable. And when we talk about supplementing CO2 and injecting it into the water column, so most aquariums, the CO2 level without injection is about 4, 5, maybe 6 parts per million. So hardly any at all in comparison to what they're used to when they're growing immersed. 400, you're what, a percent? You're getting a percent. You have access to about 1% of the CO2 that you normally have. So when we think about plants, what do they need? They need CO2, light, and nutrients to complete all their, to layman's terms, their different cycles, photosynthesis, etc. So when you move these plants from an immersed state where they have access to all the CO2, all this light, and you put them in the water and submerge them fully underwater, well, now they have, a lot of different problems that they have to deal with. They don't have as much light because a lot of the light may reflect off the surface, but it also refracts. So not as much light reaches the plants, and then they don't have access to all that CO2, right? So this is going to drive, the speed at which your plants grow, largely, like light and CO2. CO2 is usually your limiting factor. Light's kind of the gas pedal, or the gas pedal. So if you want to go fast, you press the gas pedal. You give it a lot of light. But if you don't have any gas, or if you don't have high quality gas, and CO2 gas, we'll use that. So light's kind of the gas pedal, how fast you want it to go. CO2 is actually fueling it and giving it what it needs to actually grow quickly. So when we take these plants out of an immersed state, they have access to all the CO2, all this light. You put them underwater. Well, what do we see a lot? So a lot of the plants that you buy from your local shops, depending on your local shop, and I'm not dogging on any of them, they grow them from farms. So plants are grown from farms in their immersed state because you don't have to deal with algae, and they grow a hell of a lot faster. This makes them much easier to ship. Generally, you get it's sold as a leaded bunch, right? And that bunch is however many stems they can fit in about a quarter size or a dime size, depending on whatever that stem plant is. So the farm goes out, cuts a bunch, bands them up. They send them to the local shop. Local shop throws them in the tank. You're like, oh, cool! Look at those plants. They look super healthy. They're bright green. Well, if you don't know better, immersed growth looks a lot different generally than submerged growth. So your immersed growth, you buy them. They haven't begun that transition period yet where they transition over to submerged growth. So you take them home, you put them in your tank. You're like, why are my plants melting? Well, those plants, a lot of the times, they may drop leaves, they may deteriorate, they may look like they're rotting. They don't have access to as much light, they don't have access to as much CO2, and now they're fully submerged. So you're putting them in, a completely environment, whether you knew it or not, because they grow in an immersed state at the farms. And generally speaking, that's your stem plants. Like if you look at like your bacopas, your ludwigias, your swords. A lot of the time your swords are growing immersed. And you can tell generally an immersed plant will have a little bit heavier leaves, a little bit thicker leaves. They're going to be more rigid. They'll have kind of that waxy cuticle coating on them to help them retain water. The stem will be pretty stiff because they have to support themselves. Where if you looked at, generally at a submerged plant, it can't stand up on its most of the time. There's some stems that can, and it just depends on the species. But for the most part, the stems are fairly, flimsy, and it's not because they're unhealthy. They just don't need to be strong enough to hold themselves up. They just, they're just kind of in the water. So that's one of the big things that I see, talk about struggling with plants is when you buy your plants. I buy all my plants from fellow hobbyists, where I know where it's being grown. I can see it in their tank. I know. I'm like, well, how long have you had this plant? Okay, you've been growing this plant for. If you look at my tank, I've had some of those plants in there for years. So they're well adapted to submerged life. You're not getting immersed stuff. Whereas if you look at some of these, there's some businesses, and a lot of the times it's easy for hobbyists to go up to a wholesaler and say, hey, I want to buy a bunch of plants. And you get a bunch of stems, you get a bunch of bunches of stem plants, and you can get them for what, like 10, 15 cents a bunch for common ones that are easy. Okay, and you're like, okay, well now I'm going to sell these. I'm going to say, look at Ludwigia repens, super common one. Most of the places you see it, it's like you get one bunch of Ludwigia repens for like $4 or $5. Well, they paid probably less than a quarter for it from the farm. It's immersed grown. They're not going to, most of them don't take the time to transition it from immersed farm growth to submerged growth before they send it out to you. And if you actually, Corey actually talks about this. If Ed's got Corey's shirt on. If you've seen Corey's shirt, he actually talks about they actually like to, they move so much product that they try to hold on to their plants to transition them from immersed state, from that farm grown state to the submerged state. So some of the people that are, if they're doing a good job selling, it's hard to keep up with demand with plants because you can grow them fast, but you can't grow them farm fast, right? So it's hard to keep up with demand. So if you're like, well, if I'm a store and I want to offer this product, I'm going to have to ship it in from a farm. Well, you buy it from the farm. If you want to take the time, anywhere from roughly a month, depending on the plant, roughly a month to transition it before you sell it. Well, now you have to take the time, the effort, the resources to spend on that plant. So you may pay a little bit extra for a plant, but it's already submerged. So be careful where you buy your stuff. There's certain, and I'm not going to dog on anybody. There's certain people that are, you can usually tell if you look at their pictures, you're like, that plant looks a little funny. You can tell that they're just trying to sell it as fast as they can without trying to transition it. And sometimes some people prefer immersed grown stuff. Like if you're willing to transition it, some people prefer that because it's probably algae free, right? And that's kind of a good thing, I guess. BJ Palmer, that's what I was thinking. Maria, what did Maria say? I missed it. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't been paying attention to comments here. But lately, a lot of people have been doing immersed type setups where you just take a Rubbermaid tub and a clear lid and you put a light over it and then you just put some soil in it and you just keep it damp. And it's really cool. Like some plants have a dramatically different growth pattern immersed compared to submerged. And it'll show like leaf shape. So if you look at, let's look at Hygrophila deformis, so wisteria. Super common plant, and we generally see it. It's kind of got the needly leaves that are kind of spread out and have all these fingertips on them. The immersed growth is actually, if I'm thinking of the right one, is actually almost like a wavy leaf. It's not so pointy, and a lot of plants you can look at them.
I can go get some for you.
Some immersed stuff.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So
Ed loves
this
showing.
is, I don't know if I can show my screen, but Ed's got it. So instead of like the fingery like branching leaves you see, you just kind of see a round leaf with jagged edges with Hygrophila deformis. So it's completely different leaf structure, and hopefully Ed's got some that's immersed because it is. I mean, everybody knows what it looks like underwater. Patrick Hardy says he's enjoying this. So I'm glad. So we'll give it a few more minutes here. I know Bob and Maria were worried about running over, so I don't want to run into anybody's time. And 3G, I don't recognize 3G, but wind him up and watch him go.
Oh, come on, somebody help me here. I'm trying to remember the name before that. You know who it is.
It's okay if we need to go over a few minutes.
Okay, quit changing your names. I can't keep track. Some of us don't stream every day and jump in all the chats, so I don't know who's who. You guys keep changing around on me. I don't know. Can I share my screen if I'm not?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try
Well,
this.
actually, Bob, are you able to do that from your phone?
Not from the truck, no.
All right.
Okay, maybe not.
It was Greg the Guppy guy. Thank you. For
Oh, is that Greg the Guppy guy? All right.
Yeah.
1
He just
point for
made it
Greg.
shorter.
What's up, John Oliver? How's it going?
He couldn't get it.
Speaking of guppies, John Oliver.
All my immersed stuff is immersed.
Okay. Immersed. Yeah. Actually,
I had a whole pile of it.
I've got some Pogostemon stellatus. So everybody's familiar with stellatus, like the octopus variant. If you watch Dan's Fish, it's the green afro behind him that's got the long, super easy
Yeah.
grow. So there's different variants of that, right? So there's Pogostemon stellatus octopus, which is the green one like that. There's Pogostemon stellatus Dasin, and the Dasin it gets purple in color. It has it's a little bit shorter leaves and very narrow. Pogostemon stellatus Kimberly has bigger leaves and gets the purple color as opposed to the green color. So there's a lot of variants of that, and if you grow that stuff immersed, so some plants change drastically, some not so much. Like so the Pogostemons don't usually change too much. But like I said, if you look at the Hygrophilidiformis, instead of that branching leaf, you just get like a round leaf with jagged edges on it. Ceratopterus, let me see. Phalactroides, Ceratopterus. First, Phalactroides, it resembles Hygrophilidiformis, but when it breaches the water surface, it has these weird, like stiff needle type leaves. So that's, I said. Kevin said he can hear me breathe. Sorry, Kevin. I apologize. I need to get
I got a
better
couple
mic
of
one
the
of these days.
octopus from Aquarium Co-op recently, and they both came in looking awesome. And when I took one out of the bag, all of the little leaves stayed on the inside of it and the plastic. So I tried to resprout the stems, but it withered. And the other one came out fine and is growing fine. It was really weird.
Awesome. That's some plants ship really well, some not so much, and generally, I personally wrap my plants usually in a damp paper towel and then bag them, and I try to keep species separate. Some people will not wrap them and just ship them in a bag filled with air. As to whether I've seen any more success one way or the other, not really. Some people suggest that the paper towel actually pulls moisture away from the plants and dries them out more. I don't know. It depends. It definitely adds weight. So if you're trying to save on weight, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Rax here, Bird Garden. What's up? I actually just pulled up Rax. If you like birds, or if you don't like birds, you just like to see cool stuff like bears and stuff. Rack has a live stream of his feeder, and I try to keep that thing up in the background all the time, and I'll just skim through it, and I'll try to. I know he tries to timestamp when he gets to see cool stuff. Every now and then I'll try to comment and timestamp. So if you're interested in birds or just seeing stuff, like I said, check out Rack's channel over there. Cool stuff.
Excuse me.
Anyway, back to nerdy plant stuff. Aponogetons. Madagascar lace are my favorite. Can you grow those immersed, or do they do better submerged? I would definitely grow those submerged, if you can. I've never tried to grow them immersed, but just generally speaking, knowing kind of the leaf structure of the plant, I would personally just grow them submerged. Madagascar. I don't know. Just looking at, like the lacy leaf structure of a Madagascar lace plant, I don't know if it could grow immersed. If it did, I would imagine that it has a drastically different leaf structure.
Well, here's a question that I like to bounce off of people because somebody may know. And since you're a plant guy, you might know. Do you have any tricks to getting rid of the duckweed?
Shop vac.
But I want to keep my fry.
I'd still shop vac. I would. If you, I had an Endler tank that actually I made a short video of it. As an Endler tank with shrimp in the bottom, and it had probably a half-inch layer of duckweed on top that I let it grow just for the purpose of making that video. I took a shot back to it, just sucked it across the top, and I don't know that I noticed a loss of fry. I'm sure there were some, but there were so many fry in there that if I sucked out a dozen, yeah, it's sad, but having duckweed is more sad.
It is.
It's a constant struggle. In fact, the video I took today on my 125, my big display, somehow I transplanted a net, likely a net. I brought a net up from downstairs, and there must have been one fraction of a root on there or something because it's back. So just, like I said, I like to shop back the surface and then just stay on top of it. Every time you walk by the tank, just give it a quick look and net some out, and eventually you'll get on top of it. You may not ever get rid of it. I mean, it's herpes for God's sake, but it'll definitely slim back some. And what's like a lot of people, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but a lot of people actually like floaters, right? It's like floaters are cool depending on what you're trying to do. Like red loop floaters can look cool, like frog bit can look cool, but then they're like, well, I have these, I want to add stem plants to my planted tank, and I've got all these floaters, and the stem plants seem like they're just growing long and leggy, and it seems like they're rotten, like especially down at the base. It's like, well, so you think about what we talked about, where when plants are immersed, they have access to atmospheric CO2, right? Well, that they have access to higher CO2 levels, access to light, and they're blocking out the light from the plants below them, right? So because they have more light and they have more access to CO2, they can more or less metabolize a lot faster. So they can soak up all those nutrients. That's one of the reasons that floaters are so good. Like if you want to remove nitrates and keep your water a little cleaner, because they can grow super fast. They can suck those nutrients up right away. The problem is if you have stem plants below it and you don't have really strong lights or strong enough lights, right? Like really strong is, some people run like 400 par, which is just insane. Some people, like if you only have a light that throws 50 par at 18 inches, and then you throw a layer of duckweed in it, you might be down to like 5 par down at your substrate. So yeah, you're going to struggle. So the problem is when you put those floaters in there, whether it's duckweed or water lettuce or whatever, I said, obviously they're blocking the light, but they're also sucking up all the nutrients really fast from your other plants. Your other plants are going to suffer. So in my fry tanks, where I'm breeding stuff, yeah, floaters all day. That's fine. Especially like you get the like frog bed or something with some longer roots. It gives those fry somewhere to hang out in. And obviously like it keeps the water a little bit cleaner. It's going to suck up nitrates, phosphates, etc. But in my planted, like dedicated planted tanks, I try to get that stuff out.
Well, I just bought some kind of, it's a fern, I think. It's larger than duckweed. I can't remember the name.
Mermaid fern?
Really pretty. Green and red. What is it?
Mermaid
Zosa?
fern?
Is it? It may
I
be
think that's a slang name.
Zosa. I think it was called Zosa.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
But it competes with the duckweed.
Okay.
And it's doing a good job.
I know, like the one that comes to mind is a Zola, so Azolla.
Zola. Yeah, close.
So,
Anyway.
Yeah. And sometimes, if you're talking about a certain type of plant and it's got one letter like that, that's all it takes. Yeah, it's like if you let duckweed, I've had layers of duckweed on shrimp tanks an inch thick, like no kidding, and it can get out of hand real quick. If you like floaters, if you do want like a floater appearance, one option would be Ludwigia sedoides, which isn't a true floater. It actually sends a stem that goes all the way to the surface. Some people call it the mosaic plant. If you're not familiar, so it's a Ludwigia, so it's a stem plant, but it grows, it has kind of your standard like a Ludwigia shaped leaf that you would expect to see. But the leaves, I said, it sends more or less a bare stem up to the surface, and the leaves spread out in kind of a circle, and it gives you like that mosaic, almost like a stained glass type of look. Anthony's dropping links over there. Anthony, appreciate it, bud.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks,
Freaky Fish Lady, she said that she has 20 koi, so she never has enough. And maybe that's just what I'm going to have to do. Is have something to eat it.
I've no kidding. So, back when I had more tanks and I was looking for a source of some kind of income, people will buy duckweed on eBay all day long to feed goldfish and koi. Like I would mail baggies full of that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And you sell it for like $10 shipped for like a sandwich bag. Done.
Yep. My barbs and sevrums and a lot of the South American fish love. But
how would you ship that? Because doesn't it rot quick? Oh, I think you're muted. For a minute there, I thought he was just talking it over his head before he's going to say it.
No. So I would ship that. That would be one of the instances where I'd ship it more like dry in a bag, just because some of those floaters, kind of the same thing where it's more or less it's floating, but it's immersed growth, right? So it has access to the air. So you probably don't want to submerge that because it could start to die off a little bit in the bag, and then like it's actually cooling down here. But the other day, so South Dakota, where my family lives, was actually the third hottest place in the entire world, second to like I think Iraq and maybe one other place. So if it gets hot and you got some water in there, you could definitely run into you get a rotten bag of mush, and that would be a disaster.
Yeah, somebody asked me for some because I'm constantly dumping it in the garden. And I finally said, fine, I'll mail some. And it costs like $8.50. And I said, it might rot. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And he never said thanks or I got it or anything. No. So I bet he opened it and it was like a stink bomb.
It could be. I shipped some plants just across the state. This was about a month ago. So the temperatures were pretty high. I was like, hey, this is a situation. You sure you want me to ship? Yep. So I shipped it. I shipped it, and it showed that it was delivered, right? So I whenever I ship something, I track it probably more often than the person receiving it tracks it to make sure it gets there. And it said that it was delivered, so I messaged them right after I saw that, and I was like, hey, it looks like you have mail. They never answered. And then a few weeks after the fact, I was like, hey, like, how are your plants doing? It said they were delivered. He's like, oh, I never got them. He's like, I thought you just got distracted and didn't send them. So he went out to his mailbox and checked his mailbox, and then there's some tall grass next to it, I guess. And the box, it was like a medium flat rate box, was in the tall grass. And at that point in time, it's been well over 100 degrees for a few weeks. Wow. You can imagine what he found when he opened it up. I would have told him once he said he's found it, I would have told him to not even bother to open it up because you don't want to know what's in there.
Right.
I have to wonder if it didn't survive, though, one piece of it at least.
I'm sure there was probably something usable in there. And I think Holly mentioned that she dries her duckweed and grinds it into fish food, which is a pretty good idea. But some of those, like if you take the mosses, you can actually, people will put them in a blender with a little bit of water and just blend them up into a bunch of tiny pieces. And then they'll kind of like paint them onto like a background for like if you're going to do a terrarium or a paludarium for like frogs or something. Paint them onto the background, let it dry, and then it'll actually grow from that. So it obviously depends on certain species of plants to do that. Not all of them. I wouldn't go take, your fancy like Ludwigia pantanol or like a limnophila and just throw that in the blender and hope for the best. I would just propagate that by trimmings. But there's a few plants out there that you can just grind up and throw around. Mushroom corals, really, Terry?
Are you selling any plants? Do you sell any plants?
So I usually do have, plants are kind of, I'll usually keep a few posted on Get Gills, but plants are kind of tough since I don't stock plants per se, right? So I do sell plants, but when I sell plants, it's usually like every 2 weeks I'll trim a tank and I'll trim it and like, hey, this is what I have for sale. right? So I'll usually use like if there's plant guys in here, like play the Planted Tank Quick Auctions Facebook page, or there's like USA Freshwater Shrimp and Plants for Sale, something like that, where I'll post it like the day I'm trimming. I'll say, hey, this is what I'm gonna trim. This is what I have available, and usually it gets snatched up, in a few days because I don't want to trim it and then just let it sit in a tank somewhere and it may slowly die off or it may just get, I don't pay attention to it. So I try to trim and ship at the same time. So I do sell stuff occasionally, like I said, about every 2 weeks. Um, you'll see me, and I try to post. I try not to spam it because I think it's annoying. But when I sell stuff, I try to at least let people know. And usually I give like people that I know first dibs at it. And I'm always open to. I don't grow plants to make money. Do I make money on them? I can, but I like to trade for fish or shrimp or other plants that I don't have. So, and the weather's cooling down, and I do need to get rid of some plants. Like I said, I may tear the 125 apart. So if we wanted to do a quick giveaway, I'll cover shipping and I'll send somebody some plants if you want to do that, Bob. That's up to you.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool.
So
I don't have a way to do like a random number thing though.
okay,
Um,
if you guys, I can't share my stream or my screen, but if you guys are trusting, I can run a random number generator if you want to do a giveaway. If you want to wait, we can wait for next weekend. If you want to do a giveaway, well, I'll be out of town next weekend. We can do a giveaway a different night if you want. I'm totally okay with that, and just pick another day. But whatever you guys want to do.
We all trust you, Mike. I don't see.
Okay.
I think
I
we all
trust
trust you. I don't see any problem with that.
Okay. Cool.
I trust you as long as you pick my number.
As long as I pick you, Ed.
There's always that one.
And I'll send you some guppy grass. I'm trying to get it out of the 125. I'll send you some guppy grass.
All right, but I'll send you some more back. Whatever you send me, I'll double.
Oh, we'll double it. All right. This might work. I just need to find some buyers, and this might work out in my favor.
There you go.
If I send you a pound of guppy grass and you send me 2 pounds back, I might be able to make a buck on this. We'll see. It's
I should
about
bring some guppy grass
Poor
to the
Bob
swamp next
Fraser.
week.
it's all about the hustle.
No, he's back.
So Anthony says he doesn't trust me because I wouldn't let him win. Well, if it was 36, Anthony, I would 100% re-roll because I know that's your go-to.
And you thought he would forget, Anthony.
Three for Dale, Terry. 3 for Dale. So yeah, if you guys want to do a giveaway, I said typical random. I don't run Nightbot. I know Bob's not running Nightbot, but we'll do a random number generator. I'll roll 3 times, and whoever's on the 3rd roll will be the winner. We have 36 people watching. What number range do you want to use there, Bob?
1 to 75. How's that?
1 to 75. So 1 to 75. It can't be 36 and it can't be 63 because those are Anthony's numbers. But go ahead and we'll give it a minute here. Throw down your numbers, and like I said, I'll roll 3 times, and whoever wins will get some plants.
And I'll tell you start.
All right, let's get started. There you go.
Start.
Thanks, Skipper.
You're welcome.
Tom's all over it.
I could be on panel and be a mod at the same time.
That's too much work for me.
That's right.
It's more than I want to get into.
Awesome.
My brain's fried already. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's not just today, Tom.
No, you ain't lying.
So everybody's throwing some numbers down.
Very nice of you, Mike. Much appreciated.
Yeah, a pleasure.
Yeah.
And if you guys have been following Rico at all, Rico Stan is organizing a Christmas giveaway. It's going to be a huge deal. I told him I'd throw some plants in to give away for that too. So keep an eye on Rico, and that should be fun. This is the first time I've done. It's not really a Secret Santa type deal, but a Christmas giveaway deal. So it should be a good time. Zen says, watch Anthony win. Anthony can't win. It's 100% impossible. There's the man.
Well, I'm not going to guess, but I want to guess so I can play. So I'm going to say, I'll just go 75 for my old football number because it's probably the
Okay.
least chance of winning.
Did you play football in Iowa?
I could have. I went up there. I had a scholarship offered to me
Okay.
to be a Hawkeye, but I didn't do it because
Ooh,
I'd have out-of-state tuition.
because Hawkeyes. That's why. You don't want to be a Hawkeye. You don't want to be associated with that.
Oh, I like the Hawkeyes.
Susie, did you want a number?
No, that's okay. This is fun just watching to see who wins.
Oh, just pick a number like me that
Come on,
doesn't
Susie.
count.
Sorry, Ed, I put your number in
Nikki.
chat for you.
But it says Ed, so it may not count.
Okay, we'll do that then.
The only person that's actually disqualified is Anthony, and I already told him he picked 36, like I figured. so 36 doesn't count.
Susie picked 36.
15.
Oh,
Uh-oh, Susie's in now.
that was my hockey number.
Was it?
Well, I had a lot of hockey numbers, so it doesn't really count.
Bob, you want your regular number in there?
It was one of them.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm
So
glad you
we'll
remember it because I don't. Oh yeah, 33.
33.
Bob doesn't remember his
Bob.
regular number. If you guys like, we kind of talked about just like random plant stuff. Like I didn't have a huge plan for tonight. Bob was just like, hey, you want to come on talk? So yeah, I'll throw around some plant stuff.
True.
We can definitely next time you have space, Bob, I'll jump on and I'll throw kind of a small slideshow together and we'll actually go through maybe like some of the basics as far as like lighting and nutrients go that we could get like a short like 1 hour stream or something on. I know I've done, if you guys, some of you guys watched, probably I did a stream on CO2 where I talked for about 45 minutes to an hour and then we fielded some questions about that. So if you're interested in that, I'd be more than willing to jump over here and we can talk about that one night.
Definitely. We even talked in our notes about maybe doing a part 2 because I knew you'd have a lot to share. So
Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things with planted tanks. There's just, you can get into it as deep as you want. People are like, well, how much does it cost to set up a planted tank and how much work is it? It's as much money and as much work as you want to make it, to be honest. You can get into a planted tank stupid cheap, or you can spend, if you look at like a UNS Titan, like if you want a fancy light, you can drop $800 on your light before you even start doing anything. So it gets crazy.
Yeah, substrates cost crazy amounts, or you can get it dirt cheap too. Literally dirt cheap.
Literally. So Skipper said stop. So I'm going to go ahead and do Google's little random number generator here.
Drum roll, please.
1 to 75. I'll click it once. Click it twice.
I think you just said 75.
Three times. And the number is 35.
Woo!
So if it,
Ooh.
Oh, Anthony.
Ooh.
Poor Anthony.
I know Bob was close. I don't know
Patrick
if
Hardy got
Ooh.
35.
Patrick Hardy, 35, huh? Patrick Hardy, 34.
Patrick, yeah.
Yep, I would say that's
Oh, sorry,
probably.
34.
I don't see another 34.
Well, Patrick deserves it, if you ask me.
So
Yeah, he
so
does.
Patrick Hardy. Send me an email, or if you've got me, find me in like the Get Gills Facebook group or something. Send me an email, mike.allthingsfish@gmail.com, and I will get you taken care of.
I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah.
disappointed. Dee Dee said that had 33 also, and we usually settle ties by mud wrestling, so I'm disappointed.
Oh
It's
man.
always next time, right?
Well, we need to rig this
Always
so that
next
mud
time.
wrestling happens then.
Skipper, we got to say the same number.
All right. It'll be sumo wrestling with me and you.
You know, I just started watching sumo wrestling about a year ago, and it's freaking awesome. Those guys are crazy.
They may be, we'll just say fat, but they got some power behind them legs.
Yep. And they chuck each other off a big rock platform. And there's people down there sitting. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, it's 8:22 here. So let's field questions for a few more minutes here. And then I will probably call it myself. I know some folks are probably sick of listening to me talk.
Mike, can you do me a favor?
I don't think so. There's 40 people listening.
Oh, well, he's going to have to. Put your email in private chat so I can post it
Yeah.
to the chat for Patrick. Thank you.
You bet. So yeah, if you guys have any questions just about me or about planted stuff or anything I might be able to answer, feel free. I'll give it a few minutes here, and then I am probably going to call it a night. I don't know.
Well, while we're waiting for those people, what
They're
is
getting
your go-to
They're
plant?
getting it, Patrick.
Right now? Or,
Yeah, what is your favorite plant?
I would say right this second, Echinodurus iguasu.
Oh,
So
cheapers.
Echinodurus, so it's a sword. Iguasu is a certain collection that was only collected 1 year. And there's a series of similar plants. So it's Echinodurus opacus. And Iguasu is a specific variant. There's also Ratage, Satan, Goncalo. But it produces these really, it's a slow grower. It produces really dark green leaves. It hasn't, like I said, it was only collected 1 year, so it's not super common in the hobby. Prices are still up there pretty high. I'll post the name in the chat. So anybody that's looking can check it out. If you're not familiar with it, it's not super cheap, but it's an awesome little sword if you ask me. Another one that I have right now, I have got the Iguasu, of course. I've got right now that I will send Patrick Hardy some of is Echinodurus socarno. So if you see the 125, there's a bright red sword in there that puts off a ton of daughter plants. So Echinodurus socarno, I'll send one to Patrick. It's pretty easy to keep. I would say highlight and CO2. Obviously, the more light you give, the better color. But some of the rare swords I'm into right now. There's some awesome stem plants out there. Ludwigia Pantanal is always a favorite. Just so you get that bright red leaf color. Cool stuff. I said this time, man. So a lot of people, and this is, I don't know, kind of a pet peeve of mine. A lot of people will comment. They'll ask, suggest recommend a fish or a plant for me, and then they'll say, "Oh, no scientific names." I'm like, well, I try to avoid common names. Like common names are easy, right? They're easy to say. Like it's a green an Amazon sword. Okay, whatever. But a lot of common names are used for multiple different species. And this goes for fish and plants. You may have a common name may actually be used for multiple species. So like, well, there's some confusion there. If I give you a scientific, like that's it. Like there's only one of those. So is it more difficult? Yes. Can I pronounce any of them? Not correctly, most likely. But I can at least give you a fairly accurate name that you know for sure you can go find exactly what I'm talking about.
What's the easiest carpeting plant for beginners?
I would say the easiest that I've had. So if you have highlight hemianthus with micranthomoides, which is now micranthemum micranthomoides, or pearlweed, is super easy. If you have highlight, it'll stay short. If you don't have a highlight, it'll grow 4, 5, 6 inches tall, but you can trim it down and it'll still look like a carpet. I would say as far as like a true carpeting plant that's going to carpet all the time, Liliopsis brasiliensis is super easy, or Glossostigma elatinoides. So if you want to carpet, those would be kind of the first two. Glosso is super easy to find, pretty easy to grow, doesn't require a ton of light. And Liliopsis brasiliensis is also pretty easy. A lot of people, you see that question asked a little like on Facebook a lot, like what's the easiest carpeting plant or recommended carpeting plant for this? No CO2, low light, whatever. Like, oh, like use dwarf sag or use this. Like, that's not really a carpeting plant. Like I've seen dwarf sag that grows 10 inches tall. Like it's dwarf sag. You just didn't give it very much light, so it grew tall. Like that's not a carpet. Like depending on the size of the tank, like that could be a background plant, you know?
Right.
So if you want like an easy carpeting plant, like I said, Glossostigma elatinoides is an easy one. Liliopsis brasiliensis. So Glossostigma elatinoides is going to give you like a round leaf shape. Liliopsis brasiliensis is more like that grassy look that most people are pretty familiar with. So a couple options. Another one that has potential to carpet depending on light is Hydrocotyle tripartita, Japan. So it's like a clover, but that'll grow up pretty high too, depending on the situation. Liquid Zoo, what's up? Howdy. Somebody asked what kind of dog I have. So I have that guy is
Didn't see that.
more or less.
Oh, I didn't see that guy earlier.
Hold on,
That's more or less.
Let me blow him up there.
Rook, come here, Rook.
Ha ha ha.
Oh,
That's
I thought that was a piece of furniture.
that's my wife's baby. He's a standard poodle, and she's a dog groomer. So usually he has the other day he had a mohawk. For a while he had red, white, and blue paws. My knucklehead is that guy.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
saw him
probably-
walking around.
You guys have probably seen him more
Greyhound.
often. That's Pele the Greyhound, and he did race. If you lived in Iowa, Ed, then you'd know the Council Bluffs runs.
Yep.
So he did race over there. We got him 2 weeks after his last race. I still keep in touch with his trainer. He lived in their house. So no,
Ooh.
a lot of people kind of dog on Greyhound racing, but they are 46-mile-an-hour couch potatoes. He is a big baby. He was well taken care of. He probably ate way better than I did ever. But they kept him in his house, and so super. If you have it, they're a great apartment dog. You'd think, well, they like to run. An apartment's probably not a good idea. But if you have an apartment or a small house, consider a Greyhound. He is, like I said, most of the time he sleeps on the couch. Loves to cuddle. There was a picture of him. This was a while back. A picture of him laying on my wife on the couch. And it actually, I think she posted it on Reddit, and some news reporter found it. And like it made like the front page of like MSNBC's website or something one day. So that was pretty cool to see.
oh,
And
wow.
then my wife also has, you can't see her right now, but we have an Old English sheepdog. So she's a little bit younger than the others, and she's a big fluff ball. She just got a bath today. She's a lot of hair, but she's a lot of fun. A Black Echinoduras. So purple aflame will get pretty dark, and depending on the tank, you'll see kind of some black colors, or a flame purple night, some people call it. It gets pretty cool. I can't share my screen to show you guys, but next time I'll show you guys. Remind me to show you guys some of these plants I'm talking about. But a flame purple night, you'll get some of those cool black colors. Another really weird, if you want, I had never seen a plant just grow and be somewhat healthy that's black. But what is the name of it? I had some downstairs. Give me a minute, and I'll come back to it. I just had the name of it, and I forgot. Secret government operations. Ask away, S. I don't know much about secret government operations. God, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of that plant. It'll come back to me. All right, so Patrick Hardy, if you haven't sent me an email, please do, and I'll get you taken care of. Are there any other last-minute questions before I call it here? I have no problem answering
Anybody?
questions. Just running. Got a couple things to do tonight. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. Always love talking to you guys. Like I said, I'm trying to get back in now that things are cooling down a little bit, kids getting back to school and whatever. Things should be slowing down, so I should be able to hang out in some more of the streams a little bit more often. I know Alishan asked if I'm streaming anytime soon. I usually stream Tuesday. Well, before summer, I'd stream Tuesday nights. And poor Bob, he's been putting me on the schedule, and I haven't been showing up. This Tuesday, I may stream late. I do have my wife and I are going to go play hockey for a little bit.
Nice.
But maybe I'll be able to stream after that. Danikin's on now.
Yes.
Let's
We've
go
ran
hang
a
out
little
with.
bit into Danikin's time, so guys, go
Yep.
over there and apologize.
Let's go show them some love, and I'll stop in
Right.
and we'll say hi to Danny, Kenny, and you guys. I know usually we do like the FF raid or something when we get over there. If you guys want to do something cool, I'll gladly join in on the fun, and we'll let them know that we're there and that we care. So
Let's do a hashtag plants. How about that? That's easy.
hashtag plants.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Patrick, I'll be looking for your email. Otherwise, I'll see you in a chat and I'll bug you again about it. Bob, thanks for having me.
Michael. Much
A pleasure.
appreciated. Thank
Ed,
you.
nice chatting with you.
It's a pleasure. having
Tom,
you.
Susie. All right. Thanks everybody in the chat. I think we ended up with something like 60 likes. So great night.
Yeah.
30 or 40 people watching.
Awesome.
A good time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like I said, and feel free if you guys have
Awesome.
questions that you think about later that you didn't get a chance to ask or I didn't answer. The Get Gills Facebook page or Mike's at All Things Fish if they're plants or breeding or whatever, and I'll gladly. I love if you have questions, I will gladly answer them. So long as I love answering questions, but people that ask silly questions, there's no such thing as a stupid question. But if you ask a question, you get an answer from several people, and then you decide to go against that answer. Well, you're probably not going to get very many answers anymore. So, but no, have a great night. Bye, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. You're awesome.
You're welcome, bud.
See you at Danikin's.
All right. Hashtag plants, right?